Hello, everybody. Some would say I'm the reverse, and welcome to my Batwoman review. This episode is titled "Who Are You?" It is season 1, episode 4. Let's start by talking about some of the main storylines of this episode. Starting with Kate herself, she has mainly two storylines. One is Kate, and one is Batwoman. Her personal life with Regan is shown in this episode, which is probably her worst personal storyline yet, to be honest. So far in this season, there's been a lot of personal storylines that had to do with Alice and even Sophie, and this episode revolves around Regan, which is really annoying. I don't like the Regan character. They broke up at the end, which I'm really glad they did, because the relationship is really unbearable to watch and really cringy, because every time she finds some excuse to go off and be Batwoman, and Regan just lets her. She doesn't give her any crap about it, which is really annoying because I mean she keeps on abandoning Regan, and I'm glad that they broke up at the end, because they really weren't a good relationship. I hope they don't get back together anytime soon or anytime at all. But her storyline as Batwoman this season, or this episode, excuse me, was hunting Magpie, which is the villain on your screen right now. And Magpie is just a petty. She's a thief, basically, and she steals necklaces, jewelry, and crap. This episode, and Batwoman is trying to stop her. And there's this one moment when she throws a batarang at Magpie, and it comes back and shatters this like ancient art art antique in an art museum. And Vesper Fairchild, which is the voice on the news we hear every episode, gives her a bunch of crap about that. And it's really annoying because it's just an antique. Batwoman has been saving lives, and this Vesper Fairchild lady is questioning whether or not she's good for the city just because she broke an antique. I mean, I understand, she shouldn't be going around breaking antiques and getting away with it just because she saved lives, but still. Um, and it was because the Batarang was fitted to Batman, which Luke figured out. Speaking of Luke, he actually had a lot of moments. Not a lot, a few good moments this episode. He's getting better. He's not necessarily a Cisco ripoff, which I thought he was gonna be when I first heard about or first saw him in the trailers for this show. I thought he was gonna be just another Cisco character, but he's not. He actually he's actually a lot different. He's contributing to Batwoman's gadgets and crap, just like Cisco, but he's not as funny as Cisco. But I don't know. He's getting better from episode to episode, and he's really fitting into what he's supposed to be, which I think is the comic relief of this show. Another character that's getting way better is Jonathan Kane. He had another super compelling arc this season, or this. I keep saying this season, this episode. Um, Especially at the end when Catherine, his wife, revealed that she was the one who faked Alice's death, who said it was the skull fragments of Beth, but it was actually of Adir's. And that was some really good acting from specifically him, and uh, and him crying. He's actually really good at conveying emotion. I wouldn't say he's one of the best actors in the Arrowverse, but he's one of the best actors on this show. Him and Alice are really good actors. I hope they get more screen time together. Um, I think it was Catherine who also sabotaged the convoy in episode 2, because Sophie brought the data to Jonathan and said that the only weapon that could get a 99.9% accuracy, that would only hit Alice's vehicle, was was um, was Hamilton Industries weapons, which I think means that it's Catherine who not only stopped the convoy and saved Alice, but I mean also she did fake Alice's or Beth's death when she was a kid, and we'll see more about that in next week's episode. But Magpie fits into Kate's personal sort her family when she steals Martha's necklace, her pearl necklace, and she makes a replica that is is a bunch of bombs, and she sneaks it into the what was it? I think it was the exhibit for the necklace. She snuck in a replica that was a bomb or mini bombs, and it exploded. But Batwoman stopped that, and she stopped Magpie, and I'll talk about that later. But Alice had more screen time in this episode, and she Catherine basically sent some of her employees to go and find the rabbit hole, and Alice took them and tortured them and almost cut a guy's finger off, which was very pleasant to watch. Uh, but again, really good acting from Alice, and Jonathan was listening to her playing the cello again from last episode. So, like I said before, I hope those two get to have more of a dynamic later in the season. It had there was a little bit in episode 2 and episode 3, and a little more in episode 4, and Jonathan's starting to realize that maybe Alice is Beth, now that he learned that Catherine faked Beth's death, and Alice playing the cello and playing Beth's favorite song. I think he's finally realizing that maybe Beth is alive and Alice is Beth. So I think that's going to be fleshed out more maybe in the next episode when we get more of Alice's origin story. Um, what else? Oh, we had Mary in this episode, who Batwoman gave Dodgson to Mary because Dodgson was well, he was in critical health, so she gave him to Mary, who obviously has that secret hospital medical facility thing, illegal medical facility, and she gave Dodgson to Mary, and we saw in the trailer Mary saying "Curiouser, Curiouser, Curiouser," and I thought that was gonna be something big. I don't know why. I just thought maybe Alice was gonna like be working with Mary or something. I don't know exactly, but it turned out to be Mary is just trying to trick Dodgson into telling her Alice's plans, which include a person named Mouse, which is a really minor character from DC. I don't really know anything about them. We'll have to wait and see how they use him or her on the show. Like I said, I don't even know if it's a him or her. I know nothing about this character other than that their name is Mouse. So we'll have to wait and see what goes on with them, and and the way that Batwoman stopped Magpie, I thought was kind of ridiculous when she used the Batclaw to pull her off the building into a pool. I thought that was really stupid. I don't know what they were. I don't know why she was really high up on the building, and Batwoman used the Batclaw or whatever it was to pull her off right into a pool, which I thought was super stupid and just a long shot because I don't think she would have landed in that pool realistically. And another thing I didn't like about this episode was the real estate firm. Apparently, Kate is starting a real estate firm for like the poor people because Reagan got kicked out of her childhood home or something, and that causes Kate to basically start a real estate firm, which I don't really understand why they're doing that. That's kind of a stupid storyline. I hope they don't focus on that a bunch because they're starting to focus on stupid things in Supergirl, and I hope they don't do that in Batwoman because right now, honestly, they're actually focusing on the right things and the good storylines in Batwoman. The Alice storyline and Catherine being sort of a dirty, evil person. Not really necessarily evil, because she thought she was doing what she thought was right, but still, that's an interesting storyline. Um, but Supergirl's not doing that, and I'll talk about that later when I get to my Supergirl review later today. I think it'll come up, or it'll go up. We got a Killer Croc reference this episode. It was a really short one. I can't even remember the context behind it, but um, yeah, just something. I don't know. It might confirm that Killer Croc exists in the Arrowverse. So it'd be cool if we actually got to see her later. Um, and just common Batwoman problems like bad action and some cringy writing, but that's basically the extent of the negatives. And also Sophie, uh, well, she didn't really have anything to do this episode. They didn't really focus on her a lot, but so there's nothing really I have to say about her this episode. But let's go on. Actually, no. Sophie was kind of involved in Regan and Kate's relationship. She was at the party, and you know, but that's basically the extent of what she had to do this episode. That's basically it. That's all I have to talk about in this episode. I'd say it's probably just as good as last week's episode, maybe a little bit worse than last week's, maybe a little bit better. I'm not quite sure. I'd probably give it a 7.8 or 7.9, around that area. I don't know exactly, but I'd say it's just as good as last week's. Um, as I said, I think in the last 3 weeks, the pilot was off to a rocky start. Then episode 2 got better, episode 3 got better, and now episode 4 is just as good as episode 3. So it's kind of at a halt right now. Next episode though looks really interesting. We're gonna see the origins of Alice, her transformation from Beth into Alice, and how she survived the crash maybe, and why she didn't go back to the Canes. And I'm really excited for next week's episode. Probably the most excited I've been for an episode. Maybe I was really excited to see Hush in episode 3. It kind of disappointing, but next episode looks really interesting. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for my Supergirl review, which will be going up later today. But nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed my Batwoman season 1 episode 4 review. See ya.